Did you know enthusiasm originally meant possessed by a god? A little ironic given modern magicians aren't exactly enthusiastic about spirit possession. But what if I told you you're already performing spirit possession unconsciously? And by defining and clearly understanding it, you can finally experience the magic breakthroughs you've been missing. As someone who's studied authentic shamanic and spiritist traditions worldwide, I'll show you that Western magic does indeed have spirit possession practices. And by clearly understanding what's actually happening, you can significantly amplify your effectiveness and confidence in magic. Beginning with why we are so squeamish about spirit possession in the first place. And the answer is, well, Christianity, basically. That's the short version, especially Protestant Christianity. But there's a shadow side even to this. Expelling or removing unwanted spirits from people in general has been called by some religious scholars Christianity's killer app, because it was like a 2006 book and that's how we spoke back then. The fixation with removing evil spirits was actually a hallmark of the early Christian cult. There is also having the Holy Spirit indwelling or taking you over, which is a literal possession. That is also sanctioned. This is the sort of possession that gives us the term enthusiasm that I mentioned at the beginning. It is Christianity's inheritance from the ancient and classical world, which is where magicians find it, particularly in Neoplatonism. Iamblichus, the 4th century Syrian Neoplatonist, taught that true union with the divine comes through theurgy, ritual acts that coax and lure the gods down into the human body. In the climactic moment he calls theia katakoche, or divine possession, the deity literally takes charge of the theurgist's voice, movements, and perceptions, turning the practitioner into a living statue animated by the god. Ecstatic takeover in which ordinary agency is suspended so the god can heal or prophesy or speak higher dimensional truths. Now, Marsilio Ficino, the 15th century Florentine priest philosopher who translated Plato, believed that human spirits could be tuned like an instrument to attract the living powers of the planets. Through carefully chosen music, perfumes, talismanic images, and contemplative prayer, he sought to draw down the celestial daimon of the sun or Venus or Jupiter until it permeated his body in a state he called divino furor, or divine frenzy. In that rapture, the planetary intelligence spoke, but healed and inspired and adjusted him, eclipsing ordinary capacities, just as spirits would seize mediums in other cultures. Ficino prescribed music, incense, talismans, colors, and so on, and spiritus-rich foods to soak the human spirit in planetary energies, planetary influx, letting that solar or jovial or Venusian intelligence move in to inspire health and general improvement. This is the same lineage, of course, which is to say it's your lineage, but Ficino read Iamblichus and the Chaldean oracles, and he called his own rites a natural form of theurgic attraction of planetary daemons. In the 19th century, jumping forward a little bit, the Golden Dawn developed their own version of this theurgic practice called assuming god forms. The magician would do the Ficino thing of surrounding themselves with colors and associations of the god. Then they would visualize that god small in their heart center and then growing larger and larger until the divine form and the human form merged. In my healing tradition, we have a rite called Aini Kapai, where specific healing spirits are installed in each chakra as seeds that grow. This is something that, if you're not already doing, is very easy to start. In the Foundations of Magic course, as part of the Rune Soup Premium membership, there is a whole section on offerings and allies and so on, and the link to join is in the description below. Installing spirits in you is a worldwide practice. There are some Santa Muerte traditions down here in Paraguay that require having a human bone inserted under your skin. And early anthropological accounts of Aboriginal shamans, which are called clever men, describe how they would have crystals installed under their skin. And of course, it happens to millions of people every Sunday. What do you think you are doing when you're ingesting the body and blood of a god? You are incorporating the divine. The corp in that word literally means body. Incorporate is to put in a body. Speaking of Paraguay, actually, this is the term used, incorporation rather than possession, in the Kimbanda houses I associate with. And I like it. It's not only, well, it's more accurate, but it avoids the more lurid Hollywood vibes you get with possession. And why this is so useful is it correctly suggests there is like more of a scale to the experience. Possession implies more of an on-off binary. Incorporation, more of a spectrum. And that's true in Kimbanda, for instance. There are some nights where the incorporation is less deep and where the caballero retains some of their own awareness, and other nights where they're just like, shoo, gone for a few hours. The philosopher, Dr. Jeremy Nadler, talks about how the ancient Egyptians would say they are with Hathor if they are feeling love, or with Set if they are feeling enraged. They didn't separate out the feeling or the energy from the god that governed it. So Hathor isn't a love goddess, Hathor is love. I have a Nya Ariki Kaiputahi friend of mine, Matafera Lloyd, who explained to me that the notion is the same with the Atua of Maoridom, where they are with the specific Atua being at that time, like Hathor, like Set. In a living cosmos, when you understand that a love goddess is love, for instance, then you regularly, maybe even always, are experiencing some form of incorporation. This is one of the key insights that occludes the practice for many Western magicians, that it's actually happening anyway. Think about how much richer or more effective that might be if you do it with intention. Also see how that widens out the permission field for you to explore the techniques of spiritualism and mediumship, which is more about in the premium membership below. But I'll also link up an episode of the podcast that goes into detail on how to get started with automatic writing, which is absolutely my favorite of the, let's say, beginner exercises when it comes to incorporation. And seeing as we're talking about forms of incorporation that happen to everyone, let's do the spooky one. Let's do demons. Legendary Jungian analyst James Hollis says this: "We all live in haunted houses and sleep in memory's unmade bed. For what we do not remember remembers us nonetheless." Now, the ghosts he is referring to there are the unprocessed emotions and traumas and inherited family or cultural patterns still lodged in the unconscious, silently scripting our choices and our reactions, more likely. They surface as repeating relationship drama, hair trigger moods, cycles of addiction, just me. But these are all signals that what we refuse to remember is still running the show, until we face them consciously, until we tell them, go towards the light, effectively. Shamanically informed curse breaking and shadow work asks us to meet these visitations head on through honest reflection, through therapy and ceremony, ritual practices. And this is so we can transform our wounds into our gifts. And as we do this, the energy that was once spent maintaining these hauntings is freed up and made available for our divine purpose. This really is the big one. Are there forms of spirit possession where teenage girls, walk backwards up the walls and vomit green slime? Sure. But this is the form of possession we are all experiencing without typically even noticing it. And it's also the one much more likely to blow up the world. And also, quick sidebar, the cases that require the proverbial Vatican exorcist, those entities still need to get their hooks into us via this process of possession that I'm talking about here, the memories unmade bed style possession. And if you actually need any help with that, we have a complete course on protection and malefica, also in the membership. Join in the link in the description. Or you can also reach out for personal shamanic healing sessions with me, details below. But I want you to think 80% you live in a haunted house and 20% your house is actually haunted. And even then, it really depends on your theory of mind. Paul Levy keeps writing basically the exact same book about Wetiko over and over. And it's an entity that can possess whole minds and cultures and imbues it with greed and voraciousness. And the same thing can happen with spirits of war and bloodlust. When we look at the world, it actually starts to look like what the ancient Egyptians saw. And it's at this level that every Western practitioner, by dint of living in the West, is in a state of multiple partial possessions. Magicians are also more likely to encounter what Jungian therapy calls inflation, which is when the ego comes into contact with an archetype like the Divine Mother or Christ in a dream or a journeying state, and then fully identifies with it, leading to grandiosity and self-importance and all of that. You can also get it in the opposite direction when your ego encounters more dangerous archetypes like the devil. The net effect is the same. And that net effect is there's more than one captain on the bridge at that point. So what should you do about this? Well, the single biggest thing you can do is take your inner life seriously. We have inherited a really stupid divide when we declare that products of the thought world are fake and the stuff out here, which we are also told is made of nothingness and little sparkles, is real. Now, taking it seriously does not mean believing everything you hear in there, perish the thought. It means attending to and bringing your attention inside. And it also means not going to war with or disagreeing with or sitting in judgment of what you find in there, certainly at the outset. This just sets up like a polarizing charge that makes both sides dig in further and can even exacerbate the behavior of the entities who maybe shouldn't even be in there. In fact, you should probably watch this video next about how lying to yourself is bad magic.